Hey, everybody. Thank you. Here we are once again, another show this week. Really appreciate you coming by. I want to tell you that it's very simple to subscribe to this channel. And subscribing is kind of like following somebody on Instagram, because I know some people don't know how YouTube works, but if you hit the subscribe button, it doesn't cost anything. It's just like hitting the follow button on Twitter or on Instagram. So you do have to log in. Just log in and hit the subscribe button. It helps this channel a lot. Yeah, do that, and all the content is free. Haha. I want to give a big shout out to Movita Juice Bar, our favorite sponsor in the world. Movita Juice Bar has been with us since day one. You could find Movita Juice Bar on your ordering food apps, or you could also go to their website to find a location and go to them in person. MovitaJuiceBar.com. They only use good stuff. All of their ingredients are amazing. I want to give a shout out to our latest sponsor, our newest sponsor. Welcome, Picaresca Cafe. Picaresca Cafe is over in Boyle Heights near the Sears building on Soto, inside of a little shopping mall. Look them up on Instagram at picaresca.cafe and go check them out. Local coffee shop who is currently bagging my new bags of coffee. They will be up here next week, and we will be ready to start selling our coffee. So the Dancing Sobr blend of coffee is coming to a podcast near you. Big shout out to our people here at Outer Circle Media, where we do this podcast. We really appreciate them every week being here for us. Boom. This week's guest is gallery manager and spiritual person ever, aka the girl about town, Velasquez. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dancing Sobr podcast. And this week we have a friend from the neighborhood, from the art community, from the spiritual community. Ladies and gentlemen, Ever Velasquez.
Hi.
Tell me a little bit about your name. Like, Ever, is that your given name?
Yeah, that's my given name. Most people, when they hear my name, they're like, "Oh, you're an Everett, an Everarda, or Everett, Everly," and I'm like, "No, just Ever."
And they're like, "This is forever."
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh," or they tell me that they usually know Evers and their guys, and then I ask them, "Are they Everardos or Everetts?" And they're like, "Oh, they're usually Everett," and I'm like, "Yeah, so they're not Ever."
I've never heard any. Honestly, when I first met you and you said your name was Ever, I thought that was like your tag or artist name. You know? I was like, oh, she writes Ever.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, but no, it's actually a family.
That is a good writer name, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. 4 letters.
Yeah, exactly.
Two even, two
exactly.
consonants.
You know. Yeah, it's a perfect tagging name. And it has the R, so you could make a swirl at the end.
It's a family name. I'm a junior, technically. My mom is Ever as well, but my grandmother had 18 children.
Wow.
And so when I asked her about it, she was like, "I don't remember." She doesn't remember how she came up with Ever for my mom.
Okay, so your grandma doesn't know where she got the name from.
Yeah,
she was like, I wasn't keeping track.
Yeah, she's like, I had 18, I don't remember.
Somebody said, "Are you going to keep having kids forever?" And she was like, "Oh, that's a good name."
Yeah, and I'm the only one that my dad named because...
wow.
Yeah, so the boys are named after Dodgers.
No
And
way.
then Barbie's named after La Santa Barbara because she was born premature. Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. So where were you born, or let's start again. So like, where were you born, and where does Ever come from?
Oh, I was born in East LA, the General Hospital.
In the USC Medical Center that has been locked down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there anymore. It's a big empty hole.
I was born in that hole.
That was a trip for me, honestly, because I know so many people that have been born there, and then like to just...
I refuse to admit that it's not there.
Yeah,
so I'm like, no, that's where I was born.
It's a weird void, right? It is weird. I needed somebody else to acknowledge that. It feels weird to not see that there anymore. Even though it's not one of those structures in the neighborhood where we're like, oh, we really gotta fight for this, whatever. You know, USC has ridiculous money. That's why they keep doing all this stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Over in the Keck Medical Group. But anyways, yeah, seeing that building gone it's just a weird void, because I have memories of being there for a lot of different reasons, for a lot of different family members, and inside that specific building.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a trip.
Yeah. I still think it's there.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully they'll put up something nice. And actually the buildings around it have been like blessed with beautiful art too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so next door there's a bunch of art to look at. So, born in East Los.
Then we moved around a lot, all over Los Angeles, and then in the 80s, totally aging myself now. In the 80s, my mom felt that things were starting to get too rough, and so we started to.
It's good she moved before the madness in the 90s.
Yeah, so. Yeah, definitely. So I actually went to high school in Chino Hills.
Oh, okay.
And during that time, there was like very few people of color.
How old were you when you moved out? How many years did you live in East LA before you moved to Chino?
Oh, well, I lived in East LA. I lived in Southgate. I lived all over Los Angeles. We slowly started edging out when I was like 9 and 10. We started in Diamond Bar, lived in Pomona for a little bit. Pomona always felt like the closest to Los Angeles for me, so I always considered Pomona my second home. And then, so like 12 or 13, I was already in Chino Hills, so I went to high school there.
Where do you think you were, like, had the most growth, like as a teen or as a... What do you connect to the most?
Here. This is where I'm from. Like, yeah, I was...
You mean East LA?
Yeah. So for me...
Because we're currently taping over by Culver City.
Right. Right. So yeah, so for me, Chino Hills, like, yeah, I went to school there. I, had to be extremely patient while I was there. I remember my first day of school, like, having people be out, ladies and gentlemen, this is Ever Vasquez, and this is what olive skin looks like.
What?
Yeah. That was my first day of school. And yeah, and I remember that teacher telling me, like, oh, it's nothing to be ashamed of. And I was like, no, I'm actually quite proud. And so is my mom. Wow. She'll have a chat with you later about this conversation.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
so your mom was from the neighborhood?
No, I'm a first gen. So she was born in a small town called Guayameo in Guerrero, Mexico. Damn. And my dad is Ecuadorian from Manaví. Yeah. From Manaví. Yeah. And so they met here in the United States at a bus stop.
Wow. Yeah. That's a trip.
Yeah.
And they just kept moving from the bus stop to another.
Yeah. Pretty much. So I always I kind of like don't think about living there so much because I was here on the weekends. So for me, it was always like as soon as I got on that 60, this like weight lifted off of me because I was home already. The 60 meant that I was going home.
Wow. What a trip.
Yeah.
What did you have family members in East LA? Did you keep visiting or?
No, it was just us.
Wow.
It was just us. So I just had friends that I would visit, and I do have siblings. My mom is my dad's third wife, so I would stay with my older sisters and my brother, and totally gonna get us in trouble now, but who cares? We're older. I was kind of like the designated driver, so we could go out and, in exchange was underage going places I shouldn't really be going. So like all of that club and bar scene and concert scene I went to very early on.
Wow.
And I think that's how I got into like punk rock and zine making.
Yeah. So then, so that was your young family life. I kind of want to get a little bit more about that. So I'm just wondering, like, where'd you end up going to high school then?
It was called Ayala High School.
Ayala.
Ruben S. Ayala High School.
Wow. And how was that high school?
Whack. It was whack. I felt like I didn't learn anything. I was bored. Everything I had to read, I already read. So I was always, like, not there.
So were you, like, the bad student because you just didn't feel like you connected, or were you a good student?
No, I was a really good student. So, I knew when I had to be in class, take those tests, did my homework, so I would be fine. And then at the time as well, my parents had separated, so it was kind of like, that part of the life was kind of like encouraging my mom, like, no, we could do this. We could do this by ourselves, and like we need to make this happen. So I was working full time and going to school. So And was it just you and your mom at that time, or? It was me, my mom, and then my 3 other siblings. So yeah.
Are they older than you?
They're younger.
All of them younger. So
I was the older one. So during the week I worked like at Staples or like eateries until I found a job at a law firm that I used to go to. And then on the weekends, I worked in Los Callejones down here.
Constantly hustling.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
girl too. Yeah, you were always doing something.
Yeah.
What did you do at the law office? I have to bring that up because I worked in law offices.
Okay, yeah, I was a file clerk. Yeah.
So I have to tell a quick story. When I
Okay.
was a file clerk, it was me and my homeboy that I got him a job, and it was a horrible workers' compensation law office that was just like, they were just like running like game, I guess. And they had so many clients, and they had a room that was just filled with file cabinets and all of the mail in boxes. So you had A through Z boxes of mail, just a tremendous amount of mail. And anyways, we just had to put the letter into the file cabinets. But at one point, they wanted us to hurry more, so we ended up dumping a bunch of mail. We just dumped a bunch of mail. I mean, it was a horrible office. I'm sure that it didn't change too much of whatever the hell was going on there.
Yeah, they were probably like, oh, it got sent. It got lost in the mail.
Yeah. And, you know, the insurance companies resend everything. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry about that to
It's
those
all right.
people. To those people, I'm sorry. Wow, what a trip. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
did some of that for a while.
Yeah, I did that for a while. And then, that was cool. Yeah.
So how did you end up in the punk scene then? So
I think when it comes to growing up, I think first your first friends are your cousins. So that's your first friends. And then you have your siblings, if you have siblings, and your parents, and then you have whatever they listen to. And then you find what is yours. So for me, punk rock was for me. I had hip hop already, but I had punk rock. And so for me, during that time, I was very angry. You know what I mean? Nobody could tell me nothing when I was young. They couldn't look at me wrong. I would fight
you're
people.
always smiling. Since the first day I met you. Yeah.
I would fight people though. I was nasty when I was young. No one, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, no one could get over me, and like I'm gonna like fight them and check them all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that helped me, put out all that anger that I had, and then zine making as well. And then I joined Razor Cake in my 20s, and then I've been there.
Tell me a little bit, or tell the audience a little bit about what Razor Cake is.
Razor Cake is a nonprofit fanzine based out of Highland Park. We've been around about 20 years now, 22 years. We had our quinceañera a few years back. I was chambelán de honor.
Wow.
Yeah. Roque, who you know, is the co-editor of the Puro Pinche Poetry page and column that he and I are co-editors of.
Nice.
Yeah, so
and
we're
how
almost
long have
5
you
years
been
old.
with Razor Cake?
Like 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It was funny because the whole everything came up there too, because I had sent an email like, hey, I want to volunteer, and they were like, okay. So they were expecting a guy, and so when I walked in, they were like, oh, we were expecting a guy. I was like, it happens.
Wow. So what did you start doing there? Tell us a little bit about your experience with them.
Yeah, it was cool from the beginning. They've always been family, so I would make buttons. Everything is, we recycle everything, so we helped staple zines, and then help mail days, which is like putting the appropriate label on the zine and have it get shipped out. I interviewed bands. I would do podcasts a lot during those days, not so much now. Yeah. And now we, with the interviews, you do them as a podcast, and then you see them in writing. And then mostly just right now, I'm just doing the poetry page.
So one of the things I never got into, and it's for no reason I can think of, I can't figure out why, but I never jumped into the punk scene. What can you tell me about the LA punk scene?
The LA punk scene. I don't know. I think, one, it's still here.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
I mean, it's vibrant.
It's vibrant, it's strong, and it's like, as a person who also, went to Riot Girl shows, it was different. You would go to these shows, and these güeras would look at you like, who are you? Why are you here? And you're like, okay, let's go then. Stop looking at me. It'd be a situation like that. But with punk rock here, it was like you got to see people like you there. And yeah, there was white people there sometimes too. But it was like, oh, hey, you're a girl, I'm a girl. Like, let's talk. Like, we're going to be friends now. And it's,
So you were always up in
family.
your net out too.
Yeah. Then now I'm not a peleonera. Now I'm just like passive. I'm just like I think I've matured into my 82-year-old self.
Did you end up going to college?
I did some. I went to trade school and then I did some college and then
What did you study or what did you like when you were in college?
I was doing all the general ed stuff, but I didn't really go into all the electives. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, my electives, what I want to do, I already do now. So why am I here?
So you've always been kind of like a free roaming, free agent, I guess.
Yeah, that's why they gave me that name, the girl about town. I didn't give it to myself.
Oh, really? Yeah. Where'd that start?
So that started, from shows and stuff. Bands or people would be like, hey, like, where do you live?
Yeah.
I see you in Chicago. I see you in Texas. I see you in Baja. Like, where do you live? I see you all over California. I was like, oh, I live in California, but I go to shows, like, wherever.
The girl about town.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, there she comes. She's here. I'm like, hey, guys.
That's kind of how, like, I started seeing you at art shows, too, and just started seeing you. You'd come by and you'd say hi all the time. And then eventually, like, you're now working at a gallery. ¿Y qué haces ahí?
I am the gallery manager at Charlie James.
And tell us a little bit about what it is to be a gallery manager.
Okay, so I kind of run the day-to-day. I'm there. I open. I talk with people about art. To emails, some of the office stuff. We have Rachel who works with us too, and so she does some of the office stuff. I do walkthroughs. Here and there, I do my own stuff there. So like this is the second group show that I've done with Charlie James.
The group show you have right now, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Rostro.
And that has an amazing lineup of.
Thanks.
Like, just like dope artists. I mean,
Thank you.
People have been around, people that are coming up, and some fresh faces, and really good to see that. How did you, eventually get to start making your own shows there? How did that happen? And tell me a little bit about your experience putting this show together.
Okay. So I started to, work with Charlie James about 3 years ago, going to the fairs, being the person at the booth that greets you, going to openings.
So this is, like, a thing that you also do really well. Is, like, how to, like,
say hi.
Say hi and get like I mean, I know at one point you had to say hi to Charlie, and at one point you just started working.
Yeah.
Like, so like you're really good at like getting to know the people and getting involved. So that's cool. That's like a lot of times it's like why not try? Why not ask? Why not take the step forward? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So you started by visiting, I guess, the gallery, and then you eventually...
Yeah,
Did he hire you, or were you like, give me a job?
No, he hired me. He was like, oh, you're pretty much already working, so, like, let's have you work. So I worked the Armory Fair before COVID, and then he got sick, and so then I was running the day-to-day when it came to Patrick Martinez's Peachy... Peachy project that he did to help BLM, Crenshaw Dairy Mart, Lauren Halsey's project for BLM and to help BLM. So I was stuffing the envelopes and taking them to the post office. So then it just, was like this was my job now. Because before I used to work, I was a manager at Extra Space, and people used to laugh at my my scooting around in the golf cart, the golf cart videos I would make.
Which Extra Space?
In Hawaiian Gardens.
Wow. So we can send them an email.
If you ever was racing. Yeah, so then working at fairs, and then just going to the openings and being like, hey, like, what do you think of this artist? Like, this person stands out to me. I think with the art world and what I do there, I've always had like my spiritual connection always kind of blends into all of that. Like with my own art that I make and whatever I do, it's kind of like part of it too.
That's another thing that you do beautifully, your collages.
Thank you.
So, I mean, that's a really kind of a punk thing to do too, right? Just like cut stuff up and paste it and create your own thing out of it.
Yeah.
How did that start, and how did it evolve? Because, I mean, your pieces are pretty deep and intricate. I didn't see your earlier work, so I don't know how it started.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about your process and your own artwork.
I think it's kind of my aesthetic has always kind of been the same. Like I never think there's too much color, and I never think that there's too much on there. It's just about how you work the composition. And I've been a paper hound since I was a kid.
Paper hound.
Yeah,
That's
so
good.
I would be like, oh, this piece of paper I'll need later. I'm gonna put this in my pocket. I found these herbs. I'll need this later. I'll put it in my pocket. And my mom would get mortified because she'd wash clothes and be like, what is this all over here?
Everything comes out in the wash.
Yeah, and she's like, why did you do this? And I was like, oh, I needed it. She's like, you needed it for
funny.
what?
Yeah.
And so so I have most people are into digital collage. For me, that's, I don't know. For me, it's like, okay.
Well, I like both.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, no. I like the smell of old books and going
glue.
through the magazines and the glue and the physicality of ripping or using a scissor, because I do both. I like to, depends on texture is important to me. So I either rip or I cut physically with a scissor.
Do you do the X-Acto knife?
Or the X-Acto knife. It just depends on what I want it to look, because sometimes those uneven edges is what I want.
Yeah. Now your pieces, do you aim for a specific feel, or are you trying to represent something, or what is it that you're trying to convey in your pieces?
So I have an ongoing series of orishas that I do, and those started with dreams. I was whoa, these were intense dreams. Let me go talk to an elder and talk about divination and make sure that I'm not going crazy. And then they were like, nope, it's right. The way that you said it is the way it's supposed to be, and they want you to execute this work.
Okay, stop. Before you say the way that it was is the way that they said it, before you move on. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on is because of the spiritual journey that you've taken, that you've completed already, you've graduated from. And I don't know the language for it. I don't know what to call it. And I don't want to be wrong, so I'd rather you just explain it to us. All I know is that at one point you started wearing all white.
Yeah.
And then at another point you couldn't touch people. And then you explained that it was a whole year process that you were going through. And I have learned more about it, where it's at a certain, I don't know, it's I'm just gonna let you tell me about it. But you were saying right now that it started with the dream, and that the elders told you, yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. So tell me what that dream was. And if you can, if you don't feel like sharing it, you don't have to share it.
So on my mom's side, I come from a very long lineage of curandera medicine, medicine women. So I'm the only one who's going to continue this on to the future. Nobody else has interest. So part of it is me having to make sure I have all of the knowledge for the future, because once my elders pass, that's it. It's up to me. And that's what I was told in divination was, you have a big job to do, but you're the one who's going to do it. And it's important that you do it. And then when it came to the collages, I told them I was having these dreams of Yemaya, who's the Orisha, who rules the ocean water, the front water, the top of the water that we all enjoy, and Oshún, who owns all the river water. And they were telling me, create in my name. And I was with them in, different situations, but with them, just taking in their elements and just sitting there. So I was like, this is what I dreamt. And they're like, yeah. So that's what the message is, and do it. Because, when you talk to elders in Ifa, who are usually Nigerian or Cubans from Cuba, it's going to be like this. No explaining, nothing, direct answers. You have to be like this. You have to respond quickly and understand. So it's like, okay, all right, so I have a task at hand. And so I started to work the collage, and it happened, I was able to get it going. And then the other collages that I work in are usually it's about ancestral spiritual medicine. So the curandera side comes in, where it's just every day, every day that I wake up, I start my day with, thanking, Ulurumari and Olorum, and to be able to breathe the breath in the morning to continue that day, because that's never guaranteed to us. So that's the first thing I do in the morning. And then, I go visit my bóveda, which is where I have my spiritual connection with my egun, so my ancestors. So I have pictures and stuff of them, and I sit with them, and I talk to them. So it's always in reverence to them. And then I say hi to my santos, which is another element. And so I always start with that, and I always pray for their elevation, and make sure that we always have that bond and that connection, because that's important too. And then with that, I always feel that they work through me, like anything that I do. Like when it comes to the spiritual work that I do, limpias or baños, like I'm making it, and sometimes they're like, hey, ponle de esto, and then I'm like, okay, I have de esto to put in. And then it's the same with the collages. Like, it's like, no, this is going to be about this. And then, okay, yeah, I know what to do then. So I'm working on a new one right now that I'm almost done with.
Any collage?
Yeah, a new collage, and it's about like that ancestral medicine when it comes to being a sobadora. My grandmother is a great sobadora. So it's like kind of like to honor her, and that's going to be in Patrick Martinez's new group show that's going to open the same day as his solo show.
Wow.
Right? It's been a minute. So
Yeah,
Southland Volume 2.
Nice.
I'll be one of the artists in it. So I was excited to be asked.
I want to go touch a little bit first on the sobadora, that at one point I had hurt my arm. And I just slept, woke up, and it was just a painful thing. I couldn't move it, and it felt like my arm was on fire, and if I touched it, it felt like it was burning. It was a horrible feeling. So I was like, I don't know if I pinched a nerve, I don't know what happened. Went to the ER at a general hospital and for like 12 hours they had x-rays, they did all kinds of stuff. They're like, nope, we don't know what the hell it is.
You have a ghost injury?
Yeah, you can go home and let us know what happens later. And it was like, they didn't find anything. And then I went to a sobadora that my friend had gone, and he had a knee injury that he took care of. And he's like, dude, go to this lady. And I went. This little old lady in El Sereno was amazing. From the point I walked in to the point I like, she couldn't even like walk. She just like, she came with a walker thing, and then she sat on the bed. And I had a huge body, so she could barely like move me and stuff. But she did something to my arm and then my back, because she was like, oh, it's connected to this, whatever. Everything that she said felt amazing, and it was gone. Gone.
Yep.
Gone, like completely, to this day.
Yeah.
Came from nowhere, and she took care of it. And I was blown away.
Yeah, the people that have the skill, it's something extraordinary. It's beautiful.
The only thing that I always tell people that I thought was funny of the whole thing, and I mean, I'm sure it was real, but it was the only thing that you might make a joke out of, is that she was saying, all right, I'm gonna like push out here on your back, and when I push, like, it's gonna come out in a burp, in her burp. So she would like push, and then she would burp, like release stuff. Yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, because spirit will always talk through you. Wow. So sometimes, like for me personally, I'll get message from ancestor, and I'll be like, this is what it is. And then I think about it, and I was like, shit, like that isn't me. And then I have to tell them, hey, sorry, like with respect.
Yeah, this is what it is.
This is what it is, because sometimes it's just bold, because they're bold sometimes, and they just want to tell you like that. Wow. So it just depends on the energy.
Then I forgot what else you were going to say, right? What else I was going to cover from what you said, because I wanted to let you talk. But I do remember one time that I was at an event. It was that backyard art show, and I really wasn't feeling well either. I was just feeling like dizzy and just like not well at all. Yeah. Just like physically ill. And I came out to the front, and I was sitting on the porch by myself. And you walked over, because you had just arrived with Charlie. And you just kind of looked at me, and you said, here, take this. And you gave me a little copal.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember the words that we said or whatever. Yeah. And then you went to the back, and then I just remember smelling that copal. and like just everything that I was like feeling just kind of like went away.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Damn.
Yeah.
Like that came from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you for that.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
And yeah, because I had not told you anything. You had not told me anything. You just saw me and knew something. And
Yeah.
was like, take this. I've always been amazed by that moment right there. That happened right there.
Mm-hmm.
But so tell us a little bit about so were your parents, your family, like they study, and what is the religion, and how did it come about that you are here?
So with the curandera side, my mom never practiced. And even as a kid, I already knew how to work herbs, or I would embarrass my mom in situations where I'd be all, that person is sick. That person, Mom, is gonna die soon. And she's like, you don't say that, Mija. Like, you don't say that. You're gonna get it when we get home. Like, you don't do that. And so very quickly I was told to suppress all of that. So when I got older, I just, kept working it without my mom knowing. And then it just, stuff started happening, and the elders told me, like, they're like, because you know what you're supposed to be doing, and you're refusing to do the work.
Wow.
So you need to do the work so things get better. And so I was like, okay. And they were giving me a lot of guidance about things, el mal de ojo that I was always getting, and continue to get, and how I have to go about it. And so I was like, I would get frustrated at first and be like, yo, like, I don't see it. I need to see it, and I need to hear it. And then it started to happen. Like, once I said that, I was seeing it and hearing it for myself. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to peacefully go my way and then continue to work. With the santeria side, so there's African spiritual tradition. There's different branches on the tree. So Ifa is one of the main ones. And I have a padrino en Ifa because in my house, Maile, it's important for us to have development in everything that we are supposed to have development in. So for me, I'm supposed to have my padrino en Ifa, practice Lucumi, and develop my spiritualista side. So that is kind of like, as a child, when I was like picking up messages and just being like, hey, this is what needs to be said. So that's spiritualista side. So I started to, what was it? It was like 8 years ago. I was here, and I was sick of my life. I was sick of myself. I was sick of everything. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to Japan. And so I left for Japan, and I was there for a week. And every day where I stayed was down the street from a temple. Like, the temple was in the corner, and I was like,
what kind of temple?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was just like a temple. So I would go every morning, and then I think it was Buddhist. So then the monks were there, and even though there was a language barrier, they taught me how to pray like they did, señas, you know what I mean? So I listened, and every morning I started like that. And then when it was time for me to leave, I was upset that I had to leave, and I was like, well, but I miss burritos, and I miss, I miss that aguachiles and stuff that I get at home, but hilarious. It's time. But I need to find this piece that I found in Japan at home.
Yes.
So when I came home, I went to a friend's event for a zine release for Barrio Queer, and he had a person who was on the panel speaking, and that person and now is my god brother, but the time we kept looking at each other, and I was like, yo, like, I know this person, like, how do we know each other? And I was like, that's so weird. And so afterwards I went to talk to them. I was like, yeah, like, I'm gonna try to get a reading for the first time in my life. And he was like, no, first. So like, ancestors started talking to him, and he's like, no, like, they want you to listen, and they want you to do this, and they want you to take a bath with 3 red roses and 3 white ones. That's what the message is. And any other time in my life I would have been like, yeah, okay, bro. But something about my time in Japan and that moment was like, hey,
Yeah.
Si me bañé, me bañé.
Algo abrió, like the spiritual connections, just that chanting that you did in Japan or whatever, connected you different.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do I have to lose? Si me bañé, me bañé. Yeah. I'm still winning, right? So
at least you get a little bath.
At least I had some time alone in the bath.
Yeah.
So I took the bath, and as soon as I got out of that water, boom, all of my back cracked. And I was like, whoa, like, that is intense. And then I reached out to him, because I got a hold of my friend whose event was, and I was like, I need to get a hold of him. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And boom, boom, boom. And then it quickly, like, he did my reading, and he was like, it was just like this reading where it was like, everything is wrong in your life. And you're just, but it could all be fixed. So this is, you need to like listen and hunker down. And so eventually in time, I got to meet my madrina. And she told me very early on, she's like, if you're here to listen, if you're here to learn the right way, if you're not, if you're not here to argue, and you want to like listen with your eyes and your ears and be ready to do some work, I'll take you on. But if you can't say yes to all of these, and I was like, all of those sound fair.
Wow.
So she put eleques on me, which is like the first step. You get your first bracelets, your first necklaces.
You're like,
collages.
Down.
Yeah, so I was like, this is my life now. And so, slowly but surely, I started to receive more things that I was supposed to receive on my way. So you receive, like, your mano de rula, which is this. So if you ever see anybody with this bracelet, they probably practice Lucumi. And so this is this is when you go to the elder and you're there with Ifa, and they tell you who your guardian angel is. So you have you have an Orisha. You have two Orishas that rule your life. One that rules your head, who is the person that you're crowned to, and then the Orisha that rules your body. So when it came to that step for me, I was there with my padrino, and he's like, all right, who do you think your guardian angel is? And I was like, oh, well, whoever's going to lead me the right way, and I accept whichever one. He's like, no, I understand that's a very beautiful answer, but who do you think it is? Like, he was already trying to see how in tune I am with receiving message. So I was like, I felt a hand on my back and someone standing behind me, and I was like, he is Obatala. And then he was like, yes, yes, he is Obatala. And I was like, okay. So I crowned Obatala April 20th last year, and that started my year in white. So the term is Yaboraje. So for that whole year, I had to follow a certain set of rules.
Okay, before we go into that 1 year journey, I just want to go back a little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
Oh, it's beautiful though. It's amazing. When you first came and you're like, I want to do this and I want to learn this, and even when you went to Japan and you felt that spirituality and you were like, wow, I really need this Zen in my life. Do you think that it was because there was a lack of religion in your life before? Did you have another kind of spirituality? Did you grow up with any kind of church or anything like that?
Well, I grew up, my mom says we grew up Catholic, which really means we were baptized. We go to churches for weddings, funerals, and bautizos. Yeah. That's what she didn't really have us in church all the time. Yeah. But when I was there, I didn't like being there. Yeah. I didn't like being there.
Nobody really
I
likes
argued.
church.
I argued out of doing the missions project, so I didn't have to do it, and
wow.
Because I felt
I have to
dirty.
ask, what year was it?
Second grade.
No, but what year? Like in 90 something or 80 something?
80 something.
Wow.
Yeah. So I argued my way out of it, and I didn't. Like, okay, 2 state projects, cool. 2 state projects it is. But wow. Yeah, so I never really made a connection to me until later. So now with the spiritualista side, when we have misa, you know all the prayers and you know them in Spanish, and that's part of it. You sit with elders and you exchange messages, and you're just reading the room and you're elevating your spirits. So wow. So it came full circle where I do need it here. Yeah, but it's like anything, you know what I mean? When people ask me about santeria, Lucumi, Ifa, you have to understand that everybody who has faith believes in God. His name is different for everybody, but faith moves mountains. So it's like whatever you're into, if it makes a positive difference in your life, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was wondering, like, if you had another kind of connection with the spiritual God before.
Mm-hmm. No, not really until this point in my life. Yeah. And then with my mom, she knew, like, when I received Velasquez and everything, and she's like, I don't get it.
Ya vas a empezar.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like,
did your mom know anything about this kind of stuff? No, right? Yeah. So your family didn't have any of this in the past.
They didn't have it, but let's be honest. Like, people like to pretend, you know what I mean? Like, I remember being a kid, having my mom take me and my grandmother to a santero at a botanica in Santa Ana. And I remember this vividly because I walked in and the man was looking at me, and I told him, I looked at him in his eye, I was like, usted es estafador.
What is estafador?
Like a scam artist. I told him he was a scam artist, and I told him, I was like, you don't know what you're doing. I told him like that.
Oh my God.
And he looked at me and he told my mom, that little girl needs to be quiet, or I'm not going to help you guys.
Do anything.
Yeah. And so I was just looking at him because I'm, always spicy when I was little, and I was like just looking at him, and he was like, please put her somewhere because I can't work with her.
Yeah, that's.
And I was like, that's right, you can't work with me here. And so we were parked. I
could see through you.
We were parked like in front of the botanica, and so my mom was like, "You're gonna sit here now until we're done." Fine. So they sat me there, and I purposely started looking out the window like this at him, because he had, for some reason, he worked like right at the window. Yes. And I was just like staring him down, even though he wasn't looking at me. I was like, I know you're looking at me. And I
feel you.
And I was telling him, I know you're looking at me. And then my mom came out, and she's like, I can't take you anywhere. Like, we have to go now. He can't help us now because you're not allowing him to help us. I was like, good, you saved some money. And I was just like still staring him down. But like, there's always that taboo, like they say, oh, that's not real, or you don't want to get into that because that's the devil's business. But you always have somebody in the family that's like goes to them.
Yeah, they go to do something. So, all right, so then you've decided you're going to follow this journey. You started to follow it. And then, so now we got to that one part where you're doing like the whole year of, what do we call it? A ritual? A year-long ritual?
It's a yaboraje. So I've been reborn. And I've been given the guide to my life. So like, you are told pretty much, this is what your life was, this is where you are now, this is where you should be. The choice is up to you. A lot of the times our struggles and our strifes are purposely caused by ourselves, and we have to correct ourselves. We've been reborn to be the best possible version of ourselves, for not only ourselves, our community, the world, and everybody around you. Yeah, so that's basically what you do in your year. So the rules keep you in that energy, because the Orisha is who you're crowned is on your head. So he's like there with you and guiding you through the rest of your life.
And you choose one Orisha too.
Oh, you don't choose, they choose you.
They choose you. Well, it's just like Italian.
Yeah, so the thing is with Obatala is they say Obatala is the owner of all the heads, because he was sent here to create all of the people and the creatures of the world. So when they say, when Obatala says Obatala, it goes with what Obatala says.
So how long had you already been doing this when you started this 1 year process? And is this 1 year process something that you choose, or do they tell you it's time for you to do this?
Some of both. Like, my madrina told me like very early on, like you have a path in this. Like, this is going to be your life. This is what's going to save you. And she's like, but no, she's like, I'm traditional, but I'm not going to muscle you to be. She's all, some godparents, once you come under them, they're like, you need to have Ocha done in a year, quickly. She's all, when you're ready, we will both know, and then I'll get you there. Is what I was told. So I was like 2 years in, and then I crowned. Yeah. So now take us through the process. Like, I mean, is there like a ceremony in the beginning? Is there a monthly check-in? How does this work for a whole year? Your ceremony is 7 days. So in the beginning. Yeah, when you crown, you're getting ready to do your yaboraje.
Yeah, okay.
Your ceremony lasts 7 days.
Wow.
And so everything that happens at ceremony, you're not allowed to talk about.
Okay.
Because those are your secrets. And so it lasts a week. And then after you leave ceremony, you go as this new person. And you have to you wear head to toe white. Your head has to be completely covered. You can't see your reflection for the first 3 months.
Or you can't look in the mirror, right? You can't. If you walked by a store, did you have to like?
Yeah, you have to. So like for me, I was walking like this. I had to be very careful with people's sunglasses. I would like do this a lot. And for the first 3 months, you're not allowed to look at yourself.
How does that work and while being part of the world?
Oh, it's hard. And that's the thing too. You can't be photographed. So a lot of it was like, and then, you know what I mean? I would go home and like sit with my santos and be like, I'm so sorry. Like today, this is what happened. And I didn't mean this to happen because, you know, my madrina instilled fear in me. She's like, your ability to follow all of these rules is what will reward you and what will penalize you at the end. So if you're out here doing all these things that you're not supposed to, you have to pay all this back later. And you're wasted all of the energy and everything. Yeah. So if you don't think you could do this, don't do this. You'll ruin your life because you have to be ready and disciplined. Yeah. So no, I'm ready. Like I'm ready, like head on, I'm going to do it. And then it's like you can't hug, you can't shake hands. So it's kind of hard to like with the business that I'm in where I'm like, okay, meeting clients for the first time, I was like, oh, I can't. Yeah. But that's why before I went in, I had told my madrina, I was doing a limpia of the gallery and I fell. But I recall perfectly planting my foot solidly down on the step before I fell on my side and I left the phone upstairs. And she's like, wow, she's like, that's funny. She's like, the way that your journey is a lot of all the similarities with mine. She's like, I fell right before I made Ocha. She's like, you're going to make Ocha soon. And so sure enough, a month after I had that fall, I went into ceremony. Wow. So like, yeah, so I was able to, I didn't do a GoFundMe. You know, that's not allowed in my house. So all the money and everything that I needed to get together, I had to do on my own. Luckily, I asked the Santos if I was allowed to do a special edition of the print Yemaya and Oshún to help me financially get there. And luckily I did, and people bought it and it sold out.
So you had to make money so that you could...
So I pay elders.
Oh, okay.
For everything that you need in ceremony.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to, everything is about, their ashe. So ashe is like your energy and everything that you make. So in order to keep, for you to have ashe and for me to have ashe, there has to be exchange. So that's why when people offer you something, you should never say no, because you're blocking their blessing and you're blocking your own blessing. Yeah, it's always when the hand is empty. Like, that's why you should always get something. You know what I mean? Like, people that just take from you will start to, your energy will start to drain and your ashe will go down. So yeah, it's reciprocal. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going so many places right now.
Yeah. So it's like a bunch of rules: no partying, no drinking. Yeah. All I was allowed was work and ceremony, no traveling. So no airplanes, none of that. Like, I could technically use a loophole for work, but I was like, I'm not going to, because I have to sleep on a special pillow, a special sheets, a special blanket. I'm not going to carry all that with me on the plane, plus all the white clothes.
And so I remember when you were doing like the baths, right?
Yeah, I still do them.
Was that part of this whole year-long ceremony thing, or was that something separate? Oh,
so that whole year I wasn't allowed to do work for people. So that whole year is like your year of rest. So you aren't allowed to be doing work for people most of the time, unless you've been granted that to be able to do that during your spiritual year, because it's seen as your spiritual year of rest. So I personally was allowed to, but because of the circumstances of COVID and everything, I was like, oh, I was doing these take-home systems. I wasn't physically doing limpias on people. And since I was just a yabo, I wasn't going to physically do it. I was like, oh, if you want a take-home system, I can make it, and I could tell you exactly how to do it with what I'm giving you. So I did that during the year.
So back to the 1 year process, when you get to the end of the process, you graduate, I guess, as another level, or what happens there, and where do you go from there?
So I'm a priestess of Obatala. My spiritual name is Iwan Leti. So I'm the ears of the forest and the ears of Obatala. So I hear and breathe all of everything in nature.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you're given that name. They don't just say Yabo. Because your spiritual year, because you are in service, you don't have a name. You're Yabo. So Yabo is like baby. So they're like, say, okay, Yabo. If there's multiple Yabos working a ceremony, it'll be, Yabo Batala. So I'm Yabo Batala, or Yabo, Oya, whichever one it is. And then you go and do whatever you're told to do. And it's just, you continue to study. So now, because you've fulfilled your year, and then at your birthday, they tell you, hey, guess what? The 7 days of your ceremony don't count. So you have an extra 7 days de penitencia. So you have those extra 7 days. So I wasn't out completely until April 27th, which was fine. And
it's like the penalty clock on a soccer match.
Yeah, pretty much. So then after that, now I'm allowed to know and learn other things. So, so I'm getting ready to do all of that.
And so now, what's your next step in that?
In that, my madrina said that she feels that I'm ready to be Ayubona, which is second godmother. So she says next time that she has a godchild that she crowns, I will be Ayubona.
Now, on your own, right? I mean, of course, it's part of you. I don't know how to put this question, but
I'll try, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Do you think that, or how do you think that this whole process has changed you? From then to now, I mean, and what I was trying to say was, like, in the world, because we don't all live in that world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so, like, in the everyday world, how has this changed how you live in the everyday world? And I don't know, anything you could give us insight into some of that.
In the everyday world, I feel that being able to have the blessing of spirit and being able to crown, and not everybody has to crown. Sometimes it's not necessary for people, but to be able to accept spirituality in any way in your life will change your life. This is the best investment that I've done in myself. You know what I mean? Like, some people talk about, like, oh, my degree is the most expensive gift I gave myself, and that's true. You know what I mean? But this is something else as well. It's equal. I feel, because it's like this will change your life completely. And it's like, I was a person that was always on red, could tell you how everything's negative, always in the negative, but it's like we have so many things to be happy about, and we're blessed with. And it's like, if you continue to have that energy, you could change everybody around you in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're around people where you're just like, oh, shoot, I'm suddenly tired. It's like, porque se pega, todo se pega. So it's like, like, we live in a world where it's like, you see the mailman or a person that's helping you, and you say good morning to them, and they're like,
yeah,
whoa, me? Yeah. Me? Like, yeah, you, how are you? And they're like, oh, wow. Like, it's sad that we live in a society where it's like, that is like, oh, wow. Really, me? Like, yeah, you. Like, how are you?
Yeah, they're surprised that
Did you drink some water today? Like, they're like, oh, I should drink some water. It's like, yeah, it's hot. Or like, simple things like that. You could change somebody's day.
Yeah, I mean, there's people you hang out with and you walk away feeling like lighter too. It's like, so of course it could happen both ways. Where you're next to somebody and you're like, boom, damn, that was hard. Let me try to shake that off.
Yeah, same. Me too. Like, for me, it's always like I tell people, it's like, oh, my purse, I'll have hard candy. The car has hard candy, or things like not necessarily because I eat it, but because it's like sometimes with people, me tengo de gotta clean myself and then just throw it behind me and be like, yo, that's behind me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going.
The only thing that I know how to do is like sage.
Yeah,
so
that
like
works.
I come home and I'm like, all
That
right,
works.
today needs a really good
Yeah,
sage.
yeah.
And, you know, just like, let's just get rid of some of this.
Yeah, that's all of it.
Wow. So now you're, you know, in this, and honestly, like I knew you very little before, and I've seen you here and there, but I have seen some difference, you know, and the way you present yourself. And I mean, it's also part of maturity too, right? I mean,
yeah,
do you think
definitely.
so? Definitely some of that is also the maturity and you know, I mean, just being in different social situations. But it's really good to see you
Likewise.
and what you're going through. It's really good to see, for me, from the outside, watching your process was beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, I was like, oh, wow. And then like you told me a little bit and I was like, oh, damn. Like that's hardcore. Like that's not something you just do like, oh, I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
But also the way you like share about it is like, I feel like I get rewarded just by learning about it. You know what I mean? Just by listening to you today, just by like having our interactions when I asked you like, why are you wearing all white? Why are we spy versus spy? You know?
Yeah,
because I was all black and you were all white.
We still need to do that now that I can take a picture.
We need to do a. Oh yeah, we wanted to do a picture, but you couldn't take pictures because you were wearing all white. I was wearing all black, and I was like, this is spy versus spy. But you know, just seeing you go through that was actually you know, impressive. And like I said, just somehow I like got some of that myself just by being around you and just by listening. And yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful to hear. Yeah, it's different when people see you out and about that way. You saw me early on, so my head was completely covered.
Yeah, I couldn't get near you. I couldn't touch you.
Because my head had to be covered for the first 3 months. But for me, like after the 3-month mark, I was like, no, I wanted to keep my head covered. So that's when I got all the cool fancy white hats that I was wearing all the time. And even now, sometimes I'm like, no, I'm going to wear a head wrap because I want to keep like safe. It makes me feel safe to keep my head covered. But
I have to wear a hat every day too. It's weird. I feel weird without a hat.
This is the most sensitive part of all your being. So this is where everything goes in. So if you keep it covered, you don't have all the bad stuff going in.
That's also a big rule in scuba diving. No.
Yeah. There we go.
25% of your body heat leaves from your head. That's why they wear the caps if they're going to go into the... Anyways, doesn't matter.
That makes sense.
Well, so now let's just round it off by talking a little bit about what is Ever going to do now in the future. What are your plans, lady?
Wow. That's intense. I don't know. Well, for now, I'm working on a few new projects that hopefully, you know, if I get the following green lights, you know, will happen for Charlie James, for other things. But I'm not ready to talk about until I get those other two green flags. But,
green lights.
Yeah, those green lights. So there's that when it comes to work and career. And you know, I've been extremely humbled by the community and everybody with this last group show, all the artists that wanted to be part of it. You know, there's press about it, and you know, like this is a love letter to the community, the city, and I always say it, like, you know, I try. That's what I try to do, and create community within each other and dialogue. And with the spiritual side, I say, yeah, just waiting for my madrina to be like, okay, here you go, second godmother, because I'm at the point where I could technically leave my house and create my own house, but no, I want to stay with my madrina. I want to be with her, and I could have my own god kids now, so I'll be second godmother, which is basically like Ayubona or Ibona, or you're the one that the person goes to about all the questions first before you present over here, and then this is the ultimate answer is over here with your madrina. So that's exciting too. So I'm learning more, and yeah.
Well, we have well, actually, first, is there a website or an email where people can find you, or Instagram?
Yeah, they could get at me on Instagram. It's all there.
Ever, aka the girl about town.
Yeah, that's me.
And it'll be right here underneath.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched this podcast before, but at the end we have a question that we ask everybody, and try to answer in one sentence or as brief as possible. And so if a being from another world or another dimension or a spiritual being came over and was like, wow, Ever, you do so much and you do so many beautiful things, and we're just wondering if you could answer, how do you do it?
I don't know how I do it. I just do it.
Simple and direct. All right.
Yeah.
So with that, we just say thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations and everything. And
thank you.
We'll see you guys next week.